48.
So you will see attached to my report, your current census, and an update on your consecutive 48 order determinations. At this point, you have 4 students who have been determined that they will need additional services. I have been informed by the team that's working with the students. 3 of them are on track to be completed by the end of June. So although you have 4, it really looks like maybe only 1 might need some service beyond here. And then you have an additional 4 students that need services to be determined, and those will be determined hopefully this month. So you'll know where we're at. So that's currently where you stand. You had 1 student addition for additional student for your K-8 identified students, and you have 1 less Strafford pre-K student. Your in-person and your remote comparisons are listed below, and you have at this point still 3 active Strafford referrals with additional students turning 3 over the summer.
So then that would be a total of 6 identified preschools.
No, you have 5 identified right now.
I think someone turned 3 over the summer.
Yeah.
Plus these 6, and we would be in September 11th, roughly, if all 3 of the referrals qualify.
If all 3 of the referrals qualify, plus the 1 student who moved to remote and declined services, and your other student who is turning 3 came back. So if you had all of those come in as a perfect storm, you'd be up to 10.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay? If all of that happened at once. Generally speaking, not every student that comes in as a referral is qualified, but yes, it could be up to 10 to start the year. That's it. Any other questions?
Just real quick, is executive order 48, I assume has to do with students who may be falling behind because of COVID?
No, I shared this at the last one, sorry. Executive number 48 was the order that the governor said we had to have meetings for all identified students to determine whether or not they have learning loss.
Yeah, okay.
So all those meetings have taken place, the original meetings, but we have not determined all of them as a yes or no yet. It didn't state in the order that we had to determine it at the meeting, it just said we had to have the meeting, those are made, now we still have 4 students that we have to determine still.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep, to make the final determination.
You know, Nate, I really wish we would have you speak to us beforehand, because I felt badly that you had to stay out for so long, because I think we make the excuse.
I'm
sorry.
No, that's okay. I thought that was but I did a couple emails, so we were good. No, that's okay.
I didn't even think about it.
That's okay, no problem. I got some emails and we got the chat out there. We got to share a lot of details. Thank you.
All right, okay. Superintendent's report. I'll just have you.
We do not have a personnel report tonight. There are no nominations, resignations, or stipends to report. And I do not have any correspondence to share in public session with the board. For your school board timeline, your first May meeting is budget surplus discussion. And your second May meeting is principal's report on achievement data and discipline. I do have a federal update. We are going to have free meals for students through the end of the school year. And it is going to extend through the end of the next school year, and it will cover the summer as well. So we'll be able to continue providing meals for all students. And in local updates, we have a request from a Mr. Aaron Stanley to purchase a Verizon hotspot, and this is going to be used for graduation. And it's $150. I don't think that rises to the level of needing a board vote. I'm just letting you all know. And then you only have 1 individual in the entire school who is in quarantine or isolation this week, and no staff. That's very exciting. And your statewide community transmission rate is well within the 5%, or excuse me, total test positivity is well within that 5% to keep you in the green zone. You still have substantial new cases statewide. But y'all in Strafford are double the test positivity still, and I'm not sure why. When your number of new cases is actually slightly lower than the state increase, and that concludes my report, unless you all have questions for me.
That's fine, thank you. Oh,
If this is not the right place to talk about this, just let me know, but I just have a question or two about the unmasked and recess policy of that, so.
Well, I can't speak to how it's going in the building because I'm not in the building.
Yep.
We issued guidance to families. I received a couple of communications from parents who were not happy. They feel that there should not be masking at all. And they expressed that they don't think there should be masks at all, period.
Okay, here's my concern with the permission slip to opt in or opt out of having to wear a mask. If there's one kid out there, one family who is not aware of that permission slip, I don't necessarily, I think everybody needs to know about it. I don't know if it would be appropriate to send to the parents who haven't responded, a yes or no, to ask them to know whether or not that their wishes are being met by keeping their kids masked at recess time, because
Did they go to all parents? I mean,
it was not, so
It's posted on the website.
I was.
it does, but that doesn't always, things put out there don't always get,
Okay.
it don't always get, it wasn't in the Friday newsletter, you know what I mean? I would like to exhaust all efforts to know that parents' wishes are being met for the normalcy of their children. That's my feeling on that.
Okay. So other than going out in the newsletter, are there any other avenues that you would?
The folders go home every day. I don't know, maybe the kids who haven't responded, maybe just an additional letter, something saying yes or
Maybe a
no.
hard copy permission so that if no one, if they hadn't had any response,
Yeah,
maybe a hard copy permission so that they're ready.
I don't know how it was phrased. Is it only respond to this if you want it?
No,
Right,
yes.
if you would like your child to be able to remove their mask at recess, please sign and return this.
So the assumption is that nothing can be back.
That's how you want
Okay,
this to
so
stay.
that was like a no, it wasn't a no. Okay.
I would like to see, if possible, I would like to see no's checked or to know.
Okay, all right, I have to distinguish your superintendent on that. We can't penalize a family for, if they want their child to stay masked, for not turning in a slip with a check mark of no. We can't compel that. Them not turning in a slip is evidence that they would like for their child to stay masked.
Maybe
But if-
just, or maybe just having a note in the newsletter saying, just a reminder, you know, if you would like to have your child go outside for recess without a mask, we have permission slips available, just a reminder. I think we said, if I didn't realize that it was a no, that you didn't have to send it back if it was no.
Right.
So if you're sending it, you keep sending it, it's almost like pushing people to
Right.
change their mind.
Yeah.
So, but I think we can
And there's some
remind them.
accountability. I agree, it needs to be well advertised.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that at all. There's some accountability on families to return things if they.
Right.
But I agree, it should go in the newsletter.
Yeah.
I mean-
Yeah.
Some people may not.
And there's enough people that talk about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't always mean everything, I mean, by default, but by the motion that was made by the board, kids are not required to wear masks at recess anymore. So I just want to see that all avenues
Well,
are
they
exhausted.
are, if we don't have a parent condition saying they don't have to, they are required to wear it if we don't have parents.
That was not in the motion.
I think it was, the motion was that the mask mandate would be lifted, but parents would decide. So we wanted the parents to decide what they want. Yeah, and that's what ultimately we want parents to be in control of their kids.
Right,
So-
which that's what I want to,
Right,
I just,
so-
I feel we failed if one child has to be masked because they are unaware. that that is-
I disagree, I don't think we have failed, I think if we hadn't advertised well, but we talked about it here, the things went home.
I don't know what else you can do.
Just.
I agree with the newsletter.
A little note,
And it
just
is
a reminder.
posted on the website, the slip's available anytime on the website.
Okay.
At some point, there has to be some accountability on families to also participate.
So a little memo, little note, sort of, okay, all right. Correspondence and presentation, we did the correspondence.
I have that, one, you want me to read
Yeah, we
it?
have, two mass emails, and then we have another one, we wanna do.
So
you
I
can do
have,
one.
I have one at mass.
Two of the, two of them? Okay, then I'll find the other one, all right,
So you just want me to read it out?
yes. Who-
May 5th, dear Strafford School, I realize these policies are passed by the school board, but I feel the need to express my frustrations. I would like to know what health organizations Strafford School is following at this point. I know many health organizations, including the World Health Organization, WHO, who recommend children do not wear masks at all. I never gave the school permission to violate state law. And then they quote, Title 10 Public Health, Chapter 126E1, which is around restraints. I'm not going to read the whole policy. Do you want me to read the whole policy?
You don't
The
need to
restraint
read it, you
policy,
don't
the
need to
RSA? I strongly object to the notion that I even need to sign this form, but I'm willing to play the game in order to protect the welfare of my child best I can. Please, we have 3 different vaccines for adults that get affected by this virus. Our children are in less danger from COVID-19 than children. We have never done this to our children, and we all as adults should be ashamed that we still allow this baseless abuse to take place for children that trust us to make the right decisions. Take the masks off our children, very respectfully, Travis Alley.
And we have another one, unless you want to.
Yeah. I just wanted to say how thankful I was when receiving an email from the school in regards to mask wearing outside. I'm so excited that we have been moving forward. I appreciate all your hard work. My child was over the moon to find out she could be outside at recess maskless. I'm sure it made her feel some sort of normalcy is coming her way, along with breathing fresh air. Thanks again for all the big.
And we also just received an email, I sent it out this afternoon because I didn't find it until it came in last night. This is from Jessica Grant, and dear Strafford School Board, good morning, I'm writing to you following up on an email that I sent that was discussed at the last school board meeting. I had written to the board to express my concern with the enrollment of my daughter's class that will be entering 4th grade next year. This class was the first class to have a full day kindergarten, which was wonderful. But the classes were 22 kids each at that time. We were able to advocate and get a 3rd teacher when they were in 1st grade, and this has been the way going forward. The numbers have not changed that much for this group. They consistently have been in the high 40s for enrollment. When I last checked the enrollment report, there were 46 kids in this class. I know for a fact that a new child moved here and began my daughter's class this week. That makes 47 students that will be entering the 4th grade in the fall. My concern is that the current staffing only has 2 4th grade teachers. I cannot imagine this group going from 15 kids in a class to 24 kids in a class. I believe that if you talk to the teachers, that it was important to have this group split into 3 groups because a lot of difficulty was presented when the group just had 2 classes in kindergarten. I do not know the specifics, but I do remember hearing that this group is better off when broken into 3 classes. I'm hoping that all of these things can be considered and that we can be proactive and work towards having a 3rd teacher for this group next year. I know that student placement day is coming up right now, so I'm sure the staff and admin have this on their minds as well. I'm planning on attending the meeting on Wednesday, hope that this will be discussed in greater detail. Thank you for your time, Jessica Grant. Okay, thank you. Any other correspondence?
Do we want to address any of that?
Well, I think you want to talk about the mask thing.
Well, the only thing I want to say about vaccines is that the Attorney General has weighed in and definitively said that in no way, shape, or form is mask wearing a form of restraint under any definition, but especially not under 126U.
Okay, all right.
And the World Health Organization has indicated children under 5 could go without masks. They have not, one of the messages said, WHO says kids don't need masks, that's not accurate.
You know, I know that, and I don't know if it would be able to be extended, if the gym teacher or a classroom teacher decided to take the kids outside to play an extra recess, or the gym teacher decided, you know, we're shopping outside, are they allowed to be without masks during that time?
If we can keep them 6 feet apart.
Okay.
But it is difficult, and we've got a couple of folks here that can speak to that. It is difficult to be able to guarantee that every kid in the group stays 6 feet from the other kids,
I know that,
which is why we want the parent permission
right,
on taking the mask.
so, yeah, and unfortunately, I wish we would have extended that to say outdoor time, outdoor activities, because we said recess, but sometimes teachers want to take the kids out for a little nature walk.
Right, one outside.
Yes.
Said one outside instead of
Right.
recess.
So I don't know, you know, how would that hold up? If the
I think
teacher-
that reasonably, we can interpret that if the teacher is taking the kids outside and the student has the permission slip on file, that the student could take the mask off. If I were the building principal and a teacher asked me, I would say yes to that. But
Good.
I don't think you need to separate the other.
So I know in June that more outdoor
Yeah.
activity, and it's warm, and, you know, I think that it would make sense that the kids should be able to still get a mask on.
And it also falls under wellness policy because we're supposed to be looking for activity opportunities for the kids. So it is almost like a form of recess, even though there may be some academic discussion going on while they're out walking around.
Okay, would you pass this discussion on then?
Yeah.
When we started the year, when the school started, there were mask breaks allowed even inside. When social distancing could be maintained, as we approach the warmer time of the year. And, adults have been vaccinated that wish to be vaccinated. I'd be interested in reapproaching the, mask breaks in the building when social distancing can be maintained. I think it's time to have that discussion. I don't know how anybody else on the board feels.
I know in the beginning of the year, we did have those plastic partitions, do we still have?
Yeah, we do. I believe, I would have to confirm this with Kathy, but I believe that as long as distance has been maintained, there has not been an issue with mask breaks indoors. We haven't restricted that. The restriction is on the distancing. If someone's going to remove a mask, because we do have kids having a snack indoors, things like that.
Right. So when a child steps into the hall to go get a drink or use the bathroom, they're allowed to take their mask off?
I would imagine if they're out in the hallway, I don't know.
No,
you can't
take
take them
There's only
outside.
two different.
People are coming and going, you don't know where they are. If you're without a mask, you shouldn't be in the hall.
Okay, so I'm asking if we can, so I'm asking if we can reapproach that, and if people can be 6 feet away, they can be unmasked. I would like to see, I think it's time to reapproach that discussion.
I was, when you were on, can I say your name or TV news star? When you were on WMUR,
You can blame Commissioner Edelblut.
I had to think, I thought that's what happened. He mentioned that some schools were having mask breaks at the, while the kids were seated. What
I heard him say that. I don't know who's doing it.
That's why I was wondering.
I don't know who's doing that.
Were they
I heard him
behind the
say
partitions?
that.
Were they behind the partitions?
I don't know. I don't know of any schools that are actually doing it. That doesn't mean they're not. I just don't know who they are. But I got a flood of requests from other superintendents saying, can we have permission so it wasn't just going on?
See, this is the leaders of the.
The governor has left this decision up to local school districts, for them to make their own decisions. I mean, the governor has, I believe state employees have all returned to work. The mask mandate. from the-
60% capacity.
Okay, the mask mandate has ended from the governor, and children are not highly affected by this virus. So I would like to make a motion to allow children to remove their masks with 6 feet to be maintained indoors, and if it dies on the floor, it dies, but I'm going with my conscience here.
All right, I'll second that for discussion.
So I definitely agree it's time to start discussing it. I don't know if we're at a point to act on it. I don't know what more information we would need by next. I would like more information because I also don't want the disparity of, oh, that's great for our class members that already are really low. But 3/4 of our classes aren't able to do that because they aren't able to maintain the social distancing. Then you're sort of out of luck if you're in a certain classroom, which is, that doesn't seem fair either necessarily. I feel like I need more information. I agree we need to start examining it and moving in that direction. I totally agree. I feel like I don't have enough information right now to act on that.
We could say is we could ask the superintendent to take a look at that, to see if we could start moving in that direction. I know in the beginning of the year, the kids were able to be in their seats with their little partitions. We did that for like month, I think. But there were fewer kids.
Well, and that was during a period where the guidance was changing
Right.
3 times per each meeting. It's hard to keep up.
And we did have fewer kids in the classroom, but we did buy all of those partitions. So if they can take a little mask break behind their partition while being seated, you know, or something like that, which, you know, you could sort of maybe talk to administration and see what they think. We could work in that direction.
I'm very interested in a proposal for next time about what that would look like or how you could do that.
Okay, we have to do the discussion with the teacher in the classroom.
If they have a partition.
If they
If they have partitions. But I do think, I hear what you're saying, Eric, and I believe me, I totally agree with you, but I know that the process has got to be slower, just the way it is.
Yeah.
I think that we do need to look at and encourage the staff as the weather gets warmer to do as much outside activities as they can, whether it's reading time or whatever, where these kids can get mask breaks. And if we're going to use that permission slip to cover, and maybe we could even put that in the newsletter to cover outside activity where we get spread the kids apart, then we know they're going to get more outside time, because normally, I mean, I talk, you talk. In this May and June, you take your kids out a lot, and, you know, so if we can get more mask breaks outside where the air is dispersed, it's, you know.
I will throw my 2 cents in as an ex officio non-voting board member. Just for guidance from an administrative standpoint. I am hesitant to go against the public health guidance on masks until I hear it from Dr. Chen. And I understand that the governor has lifted the governor's mandate, but Dr. Chan's guidance on masking has not changed. And we have all year long followed recommendations of DHHS, and we are a state entity, a public entity as well as local. So my comfort level in recommending would definitely fall in line with what Dr. Chan's recommendations are. And masking is a mitigation strategy that we have followed very, very well this year, along with hand washing, disinfection, all of those different strategies. And I'm just not comfortable recommending that we stop masking indoors until I hear from Dr. Chen.
And I don't think that that's what you were.
No, I mean, even 10 minutes ago in the discussion, you were under the impression that mask breaks were allowed in 6 feet.
If distancing is. the
So that's all I'm asking for at this point.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I think we're already able to do, I mean, I think we've been operating under that as long as we can manage the distance.
That,
And I know the school nurse and I have discussed that,
okay.
that as long as there's 6 feet of distancing, so I don't know that your motion would change anything beyond.
Well, did I misunderstand what a member of the audience said when they said that students do not take their masks off in the hall in case there's somebody.
That's different from the student in a controlled classroom setting. Dr. Chan's guidance is that if they leave the controlled setting of the classroom, they need to maintain 6 feet of distancing, and they need to follow all of the strategies.
Okay.
So letting a kid go out in the hall is different from a child is in my classroom. I could see where they're sitting. I can make sure there's, a shield in place. I know they're 6 feet. But they're going to the bathroom, I'm not going with them.
Right. Well, my motion still is on the 6 feet. I'm not changing that, I would like to see that, but if it's slow and nobody wants it, and it doesn't get voted in, that's fine, I suppose in my conscience.
Okay, but are you saying that they are taking their masks off if they're 6 feet away?
I'm not saying that they are or they aren't, because I'm not in the building, so I don't see. But I know in the discussions that I have had at the beginning of the school year with the nurses, with all 3 of the nurses, their emphasis was on if a student or an adult removes a mask, they need to be 6 feet away from everybody. So, and I believe that that was in the context of talking about snacks. When you can't go outside because it's too cold, and we don't have enough large spaces indoors for everybody to bring their snack. So we have to, in some cases, in some buildings, they do it in shifts. There are a lot of different ways we manage it.
What about partitions? Having a mask on behind the partitions. Would that-
All 3 of our nurses have said that because the partitions don't go all the way up, and it's aerosol borne, so I don't think that they put a whole lot of stock in the partitions.
Those were sort of went by the wayside, I think. Over the winter, they did some more research and said they're not actually as helpful as we had thought.
So on March 19th, the state actually changed the guidelines, so it was no longer recommending partitions. Do we still have partitions up in the classrooms?
I don't know if individual teachers have kept some of them, I don't know.
Okay.
All right. I do, whatever happens with this, I do encourage the administration to make sure that the kids are outside more and that mask-free time would be covered by the permission slip. And maybe if you have to notify parents in the newsletter that we're going to extend it to outdoor activities, that may be safer to do that. Everybody agree with that? Outdoor activities? Okay.
Encouraging outdoor activities.
Okay, so, Eric, I agree with you, but I just don't think it's gonna happen right now.
I think, like with Erica, I think we just need to kind of wait and see. I think it will happen.
Yeah. All right. Okay, all right, Erica,
No.
Eric,
Yes.
Liz,
No.
Debbie's gonna vote yes, it'll be a tie, and it doesn't pass, so there you go. In theory, I know that I think so, but I just have things.
It's time to have a discussion.
Things are slow.
I think it will.
Okay. All righty. Committee updates. I think the transition committee had a couple of questions for you, Eric. You might know about the facilities. Yeah, we had to know, do you know anything about the electricity and the heating and the plumbing for the modular?
At my facilities. No, I don't. I can't speak to anything on that. You know, that progress is being made in that building, but I don't know where it's at.
All righty, so we need Carrie for those things. And we do have a pretty big update on the transition, and I'm gonna ask John to start that update.
Thank you. Just an update is that Deb and Liz and Aaron and I met prior to this meeting, and we went through several categories of issues, and we conclude that we're moving along quite well. We have 2 personnel issues, the bookkeeper, which we haven't advertised for, that advertisement is being developed and roll out. and records student services, in process. We've talked about services, the second area, and we're working with Monica on it, and folks at the SAU with making sure our insurances, the Primex are covered. I've approached the town about getting a mailing address. All set with office cleaning, and Aaron is also very capably, thank goodness, taking the lead with software. In terms of supplies, I'm going to be doing some shopping and bring a proposal back to the board sooner, I hope rather than later. And we'll also impose upon our administrative assistant to be to help us out with some startup office supplies. In terms of technology, Aaron reported tonight that the computers that he ordered for the SAU office have arrived, and the photocopier should be delivered on June 3rd. So I think we're in good shape in that regard. In terms of your utilities, we still have some question marks. Of course, Carrie's in here tonight, but I'll be seeing Gary tomorrow and Friday to talk about utilities, air conditioning, electricity, heating, phone service, internet, and plumbing. I know Gary and Carrie have talked about that, so I have a sense that they're on their way. Eric, I don't know if you have any additional information there.
No, I was not here for the April 28th meeting.
Thank you. I also identified a couple of potential sources of information. One of my goals, for example, would be to the New Hampshire School Boards Association, just to make sure that we're not missing anything. Here's what we're doing. Tell us if we're missing the vote on anything. Also, a couple of odds and ends at the end. We're going to be, I'll be contacting some sign makers about signage both at the street and at the building itself. We had a workshop today, a couple of folks from the staff and myself and Aaron with frontline people in terms of professional development, and they showed the forms, and the folks in the faculty seemed pretty excited about it. Cindy was a part of that meeting, so she can comment also. And I think that is primarily it. We'll be speaking with Lisa, our financial manager, and be approaching her about the interest and availability to come in a little bit now, to get connected with software in 2 weeks early. And we'll need to ask for some funds for that. We're requesting funds not to exceed $2,000 for additional time for Lisa, and that will be consistent with her hourly rate. And the other issue, the other money issue is frontline. One item that had not been negotiated with the group is the migration of data from the current system to our new system. And Aaron has recommended we ask for an amount of no more than $1,500 for that. So I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and we also want to ask if the board, we had budgeted $4,000 for furniture, and since we have the surplus this year, if we could buy the furniture sooner rather than later out of the surplus. Also, Aaron was able to get us a really good deal on this iCloud for 2 years. Instead of, you're gonna have to explain it since.
Sure, yeah, we had budgeted 500 for 1 year for a cloud backup solution that would be used by the SAU for all their backup, data privacy, compliance and things like that. And I found a great deal for less than 200 for 2 years, and they only accept a credit card, which you.
Right, so what I'm going to do is, just for this time, is I'm gonna put it on my personal credit card. Is it 149?
Yeah.
Both. Yeah, so, but we will maybe, once we start our new SAU, talk about that same type of policy we just spent 6 months talking about.
Well, I was just gonna say, we know there are going to be other things coming up, and I suspect there's going to be a lot of entities that are moving that way, where you can purchase orders and onto credit
Right,
cards.
and just for people listening, different companies just want you to use a credit card online. For example, Zoom or DocuSign, which we've been using to sign different things when we've been remote, and iCloud or cloud, whatever that is. These things want payment only through a credit card. So at some point, we will look at developing a policy where it's just what we did at the SAU, a debit card, where it's very strictly enforced how it's used and who is using it. So, but for right now, I'm gonna put it on my credit card. Okay, so if the board would like, we'd like to know if the board would make a motion to approve $2,000, not to exceed $2,000, to have Lisa, the new business manager, come on board for 2 weeks early in June, and we're also going to have her come on, maybe do some work next week with BMSI. They have questions about certain details, how to set up the software according to what she wants, and we can't, even Dwayne can't answer the questions for us. She has to answer those questions. So we would need a motion for that, if anybody would like to make a motion for that. We also will need a motion to expend an additional $1,500 for frontline, and that is to transfer the data for right now for our professional development data will be transferred over to us. The third, if the board would like to, allow us to purchase no more than, spend no more than $4,000 on furniture for the modular for the new SAU, if anyone would like to make that motion. So it's 2,000.
Are you looking for 3 separate motions?
It's up to the person who makes the motion. If you want to do it all, it's $7,500 total for Lisa, frontline, furniture.
I move that we authorize payment of $7,500 to bring on finance manager early and do some consulting work and setting up 105, not to exceed $2,000. That we not pre-order, but we order our furniture now out of our surplus instead of using the budgeted amount that we had set aside that would have been become available on July 1st. So we're not double dipping, just to make it clear, we're just moving purchase a little bit earlier. And iCloud storage for frontline migration for $1,500 to migrate information from the old system to the new system.
Perfect. Okay, discussion? No? Okay, great. All right, Erica?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
Debbie? Yes. All right, thank you, everybody. It's coming along. We're also, they've been, I think they have framed out the conference room in there. They were supposed to, so that would be neat. That's getting done. Next, anybody else on the committee? No? Okay. All righty, set future school board meetings. Our next meeting is May 26th at 6 p.m. And then after that, it's June 9th, joint board, which will be our last joint board meeting. Is we're gonna have a party.
And it'll be in person, we just haven't firmly decided. Probably not gonna be in person.
June
I'm
14th.
sorry, can I back up just a little bit, or I guess this is under other. And maybe, I guess we have to ask Kathy, is there board expectations to attend graduation, since we're trying to keep numbers down?
I don't know.
Okay, so just to plan ahead sort of thing and
I'll ask her.
reserve the time if we need to. I mean, I love going, but I don't want to stress anybody out or put numbers in their family.
All right, anything else for other? No. Okay, public comments?
Dr. Grant, I did 2 things. I wanted to follow up on the email that I sent. I was hoping there would be some discussion about that, about enrollment and staffing for next year. And just hearing some of the discussions from the past couple of meetings, it seems like we're spending some of the money that we would have been spending to set up our SAU next year that we budgeted for early because we have the surplus. I'm just wondering if there's any opportunities to take that into consideration when we talk about staffing. I know we have budgeted for teachers, but if there's any kind of shifting of money, I'm curious if that's something that could be considered.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Barbara Lawrence. I just wanted to let the board know that camp convention enrollment is up around 60 now. So, remember I came to you a few weeks, maybe a month ago, so to say that I probably will have to hire another instructor. I have hired another instructor, so if you would be kind enough to budget for 500 for that other instructor, for August, that would be terrific. It's great, it's kiddos are really excited. This is double what we usually do, so, the school will be busy this summer. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a happy problem to have. So that's a happy problem to have.
It is.
So many kids signed up. That's great.
I think a lot of the area camps are filled. I think after last summer, everybody wants to, to make up for lost time. So it's wonderful.
Well, the state's providing vouchers for families.
Was that what you sent out? Because there was a whole list of camps
Yep.
on that
Yep.
list that.
And I
were,
put it on social media too. The state is offering every family a voucher to help defray the cost of summer camps. So it's called Every Kid Goes to Camp. That's the campaign.
Vouchers are available for that.
All righty, we're all set? All right. We don't need another non-public, right? Okay, so.
I move that we adjourn at 8:12.
Second.
Okay, all righty. Erica,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Liz.
Yes.
And Jessica.
Here, turn this off. Amelia, went into non-public at 6:12 p.m. and came out of non-public at 7:29.
Oh.
No, that's okay.
Thank you.
But no, I emailed him the